At a little before 10 o'clock at night, a mother heard a sound coming from her son's bedroom. A thud, sharp enough to make her stop what she was doing and call out his name. "Are you okay?" A voice answered back through the wall. Calm. Normal. "I'm fine." She told him to settle down. They had school in the morning. And then she went back to her evening, the television low, her husband's voice in her ear through the phone, and the house around her doing what houses do at night, creaking, settling, breathing. Nobody in that home believed anything was wrong. By the next morning, the boy who answered, "I'm fine," through a bedroom wall was gone. No footprints, no sign of forced entry, no scent trail dogs could follow past the front yard. His shoes were still on the floor. His phone was still charging. The video game console he never went anywhere without sat untouched. Within 72 hours, more than 200 searchers, K-9 units, mounted officers, drones, and helicopters would comb a corner of Sumner County, Tennessee, looking for a 15-year-old boy who seemed to have vanished between one heartbeat and the next. 2 years later, they still haven't found him. This is the story of Sebastian Rogers, reconstructed, minute by minute, from what investigators, family members, and public records have actually confirmed. Where the story turns into rumor, speculation, or unproven theory, we will tell you clearly, because in a case with this much noise around it, the truth deserves to be handled carefully. Before we go further, if this is your first time here, welcome. This channel exists to do one thing well: tell true crime and missing person stories the right way. No invented dialogue, no manufactured evidence, no claiming certainty where none exists. We build every documentary from police statements, court filings, official press briefings, incredible reporting, and when a detail is unconfirmed, we say so out loud. Cases like Sebastian's don't need exaggeration. They need patience, and they need someone willing to lay out the timeline honestly and let you draw your own conclusions. If that's the kind of true crime storytelling you're here for, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. We release new investigations regularly, and a case like this deserves to stay in front of people until there are answers. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was born on December 7, 2008. By February of 2024, he was 15 years old, living in Hendersonville, Tennessee, a growing suburb roughly 25 miles northeast of Nashville, tucked along the shores of Old Hickory Lake. Hendersonville has the feel of small-town America stitched onto the edge of a major city. Cul-de-sacs, soccer leagues, a low crime rate, the kind of place where a missing child alert is almost unthinkable. Sebastian lived with his mother, Katie Proudfoot, and her husband, Chris Proudfoot, at a home on Stafford Court. His biological father, Seth Rogers, lived separately and remained an active presence in his son's life, speaking regularly with him and staying in contact with Katie about his care. Sebastian had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, along with a rare genetic condition known as 6q27 chromosomal deletion syndrome. He also had ADHD. Together, these conditions meant Sebastian required a level of daily structure and support that shaped nearly every part of his routine: his sleep schedule, his sensory needs, his communication style, his sense of the world around him. Those closest to him describe a boy who was intelligent, particular about his habits, and not prone to reckless or impulsive behavior. His mother would later tell reporters that Sebastian was very smart and not the kind of teenager who acted out or wandered off without reason. His father echoed that description, adding a detail that would become one of the more haunting elements of the entire case. Sebastian, he said, did not like going barefoot, not as a preference, as something closer to an aversion rooted in a childhood incident. It was, in his father's eyes, simply not something his son would choose to do voluntarily, especially not outside, at night, in February. That detail matters. Keep it in mind. We'll return to it. By all accounts, February 25, 2024 began as an unremarkable Sunday. According to the FBI's own published account of the case, Sebastian spent the entirety of February 25th with his mother. The two of them ran errands together, shopping at a local department store. From there, they went to a bowling alley where Sebastian, by every description a typical teenager in this one respect, played video games in the arcade section while his mother watched. The pair capped off the day with dinner at a nearby restaurant before heading home for the evening. It was, on paper, a good day, a normal day. A mother and son spending unhurried time together on a Sunday afternoon, with nothing to suggest that anything about it would later be picked apart minute by investigators, journalists, and thousands of strangers online. They arrived back at the house on Stafford Court sometime that evening. Sebastian and Katie began getting ready for bed. According to Katie's own account, and confirmed in reporting from the FBI and Sumner County Sheriff's Office, the two said goodnight to each other sometime between 9 and 10 p.m. This is where the timeline becomes critical, and where every detail has been scrutinized. Approximately 9:45 to 10 p.m., Katie Proudfoot says she heard a loud bang, a thud, coming from Sebastian's bedroom. Concerned, she called out to ask if he was all right. According to Detective Brandon Carter of the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, in comments later shared through the FBI's public account of the case, Sebastian responded that he was fine. Katie told him to settle down, reminding him they had to be up early for school the next day. This is the last confirmed moment that anyone has said they heard directly from Sebastian. Following 10 p.m., Chris Proudfoot, Sebastian's stepfather, was not home that night. Multiple official statements confirm he was out of town. Working in Southwest Tennessee, Katie remained on the phone with her husband for nearly 2 hours after putting Sebastian to bed, according to the FBI's timeline of the case. Around midnight, investigative reporting has indicated that Chris, on the phone with Katie, told her to go to bed after she had apparently drifted off on the sofa during their call. Shortly afterward, Katie went to sleep. From this point forward, roughly midnight onward, there is no confirmed account from any family member of anyone checking on Sebastian again until morning. In the hours between midnight and dawn, this is the black hole at the center of the entire case. No one has offered a confirmed, verified account of what happened inside or outside that house during these hours. There is no doorbell camera footage placing Sebastian leaving. There is no witness. There is no confirmed 911 call, no alarm, no disturbance reported by neighbors. A private investigator later hired by the family pointed to surveillance footage showing what appears to be a person in dark clothing walking through the neighborhood at 12:17 a.m. that night. This detail has been publicly discussed as a possible lead, but it has never been officially confirmed by law enforcement to be connected to Sebastian's disappearance, and the identity of the person in the footage has not been established. We want to be precise about that distinction. A private investigator's observation is not the same as a confirmed investigative finding, and as of this recording, authorities have not attributed that footage to Sebastian or to any identified suspect. February 26th, morning, Katie Proudfoot went to wake Sebastian for school. He was not in his bed. According to her account, she searched the house, his room, the rest of the home, the yard, before driving around the neighborhood herself around 6:30 a.m., hoping to spot him. When that search turned up nothing, she and Chris Proudfoot called authorities. Dispatch records placed the first calls regarding a missing juvenile at 6:18 a.m., with a follow-up dispatch later that morning, Sumner County. Deputies responded, and the case was almost immediately escalated to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, which issued an endangered child alert that same morning, a designation used for missing children believed to be in danger, distinct from a standard Amber Alert, though both terms have circulated in coverage of the case. By the time the sun was fully up over Hendersonville on February 26, 2024, Sebastian Rogers had already been gone for hours. Nobody yet understood just how long that absence would stretch. What followed was one of the largest search operations in recent Tennessee history for a missing child. More than 200 searchers were mobilized within days. K-9 scent units, mounted officers on horseback, drone teams, and helicopters swept the wooded areas, drainage ditches, and waterways surrounding the Stafford Court neighborhood. The Sumner County Sheriff's Office coordinated with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and law enforcement agencies from surrounding counties, including the Lebanon Police Department, sent personnel to assist. The alert issued that morning described Sebastian as last seen wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, and black, square-framed glasses. Investigators noted something else, something that unsettled searchers from the very beginning. He had no shoes. For a week, the search was relentless. Ground teams walked the neighborhood in expanding rings. Divers and drone operators checked nearby ponds and waterways. Volunteers from organizations like the Cajun Navy, a well-known disaster and search and rescue volunteer network, joined the effort. Though their involvement would later end amid reports of threats directed at volunteers, a detail confirmed in national coverage of the case. And yet, after 7 days of what can only be described as an exhaustive search, investigators had found nothing. Not a footprint, not a fiber, Not a single confirmed sighting on any doorbell or surveillance camera in the surrounding area. By the end of that first week, the sheriff's office made a decision that spoke volumes about how strange this case already was. They scaled back the physical, boots-on-the-ground search and began transitioning into what they described as the investigative phase, treating the case less like a search for a lost child in the woods and more like the disappearance of someone who had, in some fashion, been taken or who had left under circumstances no one yet understood. Detectives were careful to add one thing publicly. They said they had no reason to believe Sebastian was not alive. It was a statement meant to offer hope. It also, by its very phrasing, acknowledged how little they actually knew. As the investigative phase deepened, a handful of physical details emerged that have driven public fascination with this case for 2 years, because none of them fit neatly into any single explanation. No shoes? Sebastian's shoes were reportedly still in the house. His father's comments about his son's aversion to being barefoot only deepened the strangeness of this detail. If Sebastian left the house on his own, why would he do so without shoes in late February when nighttime temperatures in Middle Tennessee regularly drop into the 30s and 40s Fahrenheit? No phone. His cell phone remained in the home. For a 15-year-old in 2024, leaving a phone behind, whether fleeing, wandering, or being taken, is itself notable, and it has meant investigators have had no digital trail, no location pings, no messages to examine for the hours after Sebastian went to bed. No Nintendo Switch. Multiple reports emphasize that Sebastian's handheld gaming console, something he was rarely without, was left behind untouched. No forced entry. Investigators found no broken windows, no damaged doors, no sign that anyone had broken into the home from outside. No confirmed scent trail leading away from the property. This is one of the most consistently reported and most disputed details in the entire case. Multiple outlets, including crime timeline trackers who have followed dispatch audio, have reported that K9 units picked up a scent inside or near the home, but were unable to establish a trail leading meaningfully away from the property into the surrounding neighborhood or woods. Sumner County officials have not released a detailed, official public account clarifying exactly what the scent evidence showed or did not show, and this remains one of the more contested and unresolved threads of the public record. No footprints. Given the description of Sebastian being barefoot, investigators searched for any footprint evidence in the yard, in nearby mud, or in the surrounding area. None has been publicly confirmed. Taken together, these details form the foundation of the how that has haunted investigators, journalists, and armchair detectives alike for 2 years. A boy vanished from inside a locked, undamaged home, leaving behind the very things a person fleeing danger or simply wandering off would ordinarily take. No trail, no trace. Other reporting, including claims Chris himself has made in public statements and social media commentary circulating widely online, asserts that he was later administered a polygraph by the TBI and passed it. We could not independently confirm, through official TBI or Sumner County statements, a definitive, on-the-record account of whether Chris Proudfoot completed a polygraph examination, when, or with what result. This inconsistency, some sources saying he took one and passed, other sources questioning whether that ever happened, has itself become a significant point of public suspicion and online debate. We're presenting it to you exactly as it exists, unresolved. What officials have said on the record is more measured. In an April 2024 press conference, a Tennessee Bureau of Investigation spokesperson stated plainly that Sebastian's parents had been cooperative throughout the investigation. That is a direct, attributable, official statement, and it stands in contrast to a great deal of the speculation that has circulated online. That speculation has been significant. Social media communities and independent true crime content creators have, over the past 2 years, raised a range of allegations against Chris Proudfoot specifically, including claims regarding past disciplinary methods involving Sebastian, and claims disputing his account of law enforcement contact and cooperation. We want to be direct with you. These are allegations circulating in unofficial, non-official channels. They have not been confirmed through court filings, criminal charges, or official statements from Sumner County or the TBI. No charges have been filed against either parent in connection with Sebastian's disappearance at the time of this documentary's production. We are naming that this speculation exists because it is a real and significant part of the public conversation around this case, but we are not asserting it as fact because we cannot verify it as fact. What we can confirm is that the scrutiny directed at the family became intense enough to have real consequences. Following threats, Katie and Chris Proudfoot reportedly left town for a period in the weeks after Sebastian's disappearance. The Cajun Navy Volunteer Search Group publicly cited threats as a factor in ending their involvement in the search. And in a notable legal development, the Proudfoots filed for, and were granted, a restraining order against a true crime YouTuber whose content about the case they said crossed a line. A restraining order that has been reported as upheld by a Sumner County judge. This is a detail worth sitting with for a moment, because it says something about the environment this case unfolded in. A missing child investigation unfolding in real time, colliding with true crime internet culture, armchair sleuths, competing YouTube channels, TikTok theory videos, all operating without subpoena power, without access to case files, filling the vacuum of official silence with theories that spread far faster than verified fact ever could. Detectives, for their part, have publicly acknowledged the toll this has taken on the investigation itself. Sumner County officials stated in later press updates that inaccurate information circulating online had, in their words, become a distraction to their work. In the weeks following Sebastian's disappearance, investigators pursued several leads that generated intense public attention and ultimately led nowhere. On March 7, 2024, authorities searched a landfill in White Plains, Kentucky. This search was explicitly described by officials as precautionary. The landfill was the destination for trash collected from Sebastian's neighborhood, and investigators wanted to rule out any possibility connected to that fact. Officials were careful to state there was no specific evidence pointing them there. It was due diligence, not a breakthrough. Roughly a month later, on April 3, 2024, a renewed ground search began in the area near where Sebastian was last seen. During this period, a pair of glasses was discovered in the search area, and for a brief window, speculation exploded. Many wondered if these were Sebastian's glasses, discarded or lost during whatever happened to him. That night, on April 3rd, Sumner County's chief deputy confirmed the glasses had been found and that an investigation into them was underway. The very next morning, the sheriff's office issued a clarifying statement. The eyeglasses were not connected to Sebastian Rogers. Another dead end, but one that illustrates just how thin the margin has been between hope and disappointment throughout this entire case. How a single found object can spark a wave of public anticipation within hours, only to be extinguished the next morning. By April 2024, Sebastian's biological father, Seth Rogers, had grown frustrated enough with the pace and transparency of the investigation that he hired his own private investigator, Steve Fisher. Seth publicly stated he felt disconnected from the official investigation, telling reporters he wasn't invited to press conferences and struggled to get information directly from Sumner County officials. It was through this private investigation that the piece of surveillance footage mentioned earlier came to public attention, footage reportedly showing a figure in dark clothing walking through the Stafford Court neighborhood at 12:17 a.m. on the night Sebastian disappeared. As we noted earlier, this remains an unconfirmed lead. It has not been officially tied to Sebastian's case by law enforcement, and the identity of the person in the footage, if it shows a person connected to the case at all, has never been publicly established. As months turned into a year, and then into a second year, with no trace of Sebastian, the case escalated to a federal level of attention. The FBI has formally offered a reward of up to $50,000 for information leading to Sebastian's whereabouts, a reward that remains active. In 2025, the Bureau took the step of publishing its own detailed public account of the case and actively renewing calls for tips, a move typically reserved for cases where investigators believe the public still holds unrealized pieces of the puzzle. Josh Savley, special agent in charge of the Criminal Investigation Division at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, stated publicly that authorities have followed through on every tip that has come in. That is a significant claim. It suggests a case that has not gone cold from lack of effort, but one that has simply produced no answer, despite sustained, active investigation. In parallel, the family's fight for accountability took a new turn. In 2026, Sebastian's father filed federal lawsuits, one against the Sumner County Sheriff's Office and one against the Tennessee Department of Children's Services. According to reporting on the lawsuits, Seth Rogers has alleged that DCS had prior warning signs regarding Sebastian's welfare before his disappearance, and that the agency failed to act on them. He has also alleged failures in how the investigation itself was conducted after Sebastian went missing. These lawsuits matter for one important reason beyond their immediate legal stakes. If they proceed through federal court, they carry the potential to force the release of investigative records, internal communications, and sworn testimony that have never been made public. In a case defined by opacity, where even Sebastian's own father has said he struggled to get basic information from investigators, that possibility represents one of the only realistic paths toward new, verified information becoming public. DCS, for its part, has stated it does not comment on pending litigation or specific cases, citing state and federal confidentiality laws, a standard, expected response, but one that leaves the underlying allegations neither confirmed nor denied. On February 26, 2026, exactly 2 years after Sebastian's disappearance, Sumner County Sheriff's officials marked the anniversary with a public statement describing the case as active and ongoing. That same week, WSMV4 reported that protests had been sparked in the community, with demonstrators calling on authorities to do something, a sign of how much frustration has built in the 2 years since Sebastian vanished, both from the family and from a public that has followed this case closely without ever getting closure. Sebastian would be 17 years old now. The official missing persons description has been updated accordingly, 5 foot 5 inches tall. Approximately 120 pounds, blonde or brown hair, brown or hazel eyes, with reported ties to Clarksville, Tennessee. Katie Proudfoot has spoken about the toll of the unknown in devastatingly plain terms. In one interview, she described living with a gaping hole in her heart. In another, marking the 1-year anniversary of her son's disappearance, she said this: "Every possibility of something that could have happened to him, where he could have gone. If he had gone with someone. If someone took him willingly, unwillingly. If he ran away and got lost. A million different things, and unfortunately, I don't know." Chris Proudfoot, in that same anniversary interview, called it the largest manhunt in Tennessee history for a child, with absolutely zero evidence. He added, "There's nothing out there." Whatever else remains uncertain about this case, that particular observation is difficult to argue with. Hundreds of searchers, K9 units, drones, helicopters, divers, a landfill search, a federal reward, 2 years of sustained investigative effort by local, state, and federal agencies. And still, nothing. Let's lay out, plainly, what remains unresolved in the case of Sebastian Rogers. We do not know what happened in the hours between roughly midnight and 6 a.m. on February 26, 2024. No confirmed account exists for that window. We do not know, with certainty, whether Sebastian left the home on his own or whether someone else was involved. Both possibilities remain officially open. We do not have a confirmed, official public explanation for the scent evidence, whether K9 units did or did not establish a trail away from the property, and if they did not, what that absence actually means. We do not know the identity or the relevance of the figure captured on surveillance footage at 12:17 a.m., if that figure has any connection to this case at all. We do not have on-the-record clarity regarding Chris Proudfoot's polygraph history, whether one was administered, when, and what the result was, despite conflicting public claims from multiple sources. And we do not know, most fundamentally, where Sebastian Rogers is right now, or whether he is still alive, though investigators have publicly stated they have no reason to believe otherwise. What we do know is this: a 15-year-old boy with autism who did not like going barefoot, who never went anywhere without his phone or his Nintendo Switch, said goodnight to his mother through a bedroom wall and was never confirmed to be seen or heard from again. His shoes stayed by the door. His phone stayed on the charger. And somewhere between a thud in the night and a mother's hand reaching for an empty bed the next morning, he was gone. There is a particular kind of silence that surrounds cases like this one. Not the silence of resolution, but the silence of a story that simply stopped, mid-sentence, mid-search, mid-life, and never picked back up. Sebastian Rogers should be finishing his junior year of high school right now. He should be a name his classmates say without flinching, a face that shows up in yearbook photos instead of missing persons flyers. Instead, his name has become shorthand for a mystery, turned over and dissected in comment sections and TikTok videos by people who never met him, searching for an answer that 2 years of professional, well-resourced investigation has not yet found. Somewhere in Sumner County, Tennessee, a bedroom exists that once belonged to a boy who liked video games, who needed his shoes, who said, "I'm fine," through a wall on an ordinary Sunday night. Whatever the true story turns out to be, whether it's found through a new lead, a legal case that forces old records into daylight, or simply through the patient work of investigators who have promised they haven't stopped, that story is still waiting to be finished. Until it is, The case of Sebastian Rogers remains exactly what the sheriff's office called it on the 2-year anniversary of his disappearance, active and ongoing. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, you're urged to contact the Sumner County Sheriff's Office at 615-451-3838, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation at 1-800-TBI-FIND, or submit a tip directly to the FBI at tips.fbi.gov. Don't forget to subscribe for more investigative documentaries. New cases released regularly.